the Indian Ocean, off the southeastern coast of Africa, Madagascar is truly unique in several respects. By mass, it's our planet's fourth largest island, considered by many to be regarded as a separate continent. Contrary to neighbouring Comoros and Mauritius, its development is not the result of volcanic activity. It split from the African continent hundreds of millions of years ago. The wildlife of this beautiful island is also unique, as it could develop undisturbed for thousands of years. About 90% of the plants and animals found here are indigenous, so can be found nowhere else in the world. 3% of the Earth's total plant species and vertebrates are found in Madagascar. The island's inhabitants are also special. The first people came here 2,000 years ago, arrived from the archipelago of Indonesia, most likely from Borneo or Celebes. Being mixed with the East African settlers, they created today's population of the area, the ethnic group of Malagasy. Madagascar was mentioned by Marco Polo, and the Portuguese Diego Dias also indicated the existence of the island around 1500. However, its true discoverer is believed to have been Francisco de Almeida, though by the end of the 17th century the French, the Dutch, the Portuguese and the English had alternately tried to settle here. The French were ultimately successful in colonisation. The island's history tells of the outstanding figure of the Hungarian Count Maurice Benyovsky, who, among the first to discover the interior areas, then to win the confidence of the natives, became governor. The country, as a member of the French community, received autonomy in 1958 and 2 years later formally became independent with the name Malagasy Republic first, then the Democratic Republic of Madagascar. The first stage of our journey is the capital of Madagascar, an ever-bustling, vibrant metropolis, Antananarivo, or as it is often called by the people living here, Tana, the City of the Thousand. The city, which is situated in the centre of the island lengthwise, in the northern part of the so-called Central Plateau, was founded in 1625 and was made the centre of the kingdom of the Merina kings. During the conquest, its importance gradually increased, and it became the capital of the country in the 18th century. The French occupied it in 1895 and made it the centre of the colonial administration and the seat of Governor-General. After independence, the city rapidly developed. Its population increased apace. This is currently the country's largest city with about 1.8 million inhabitants, and also the island's administrative, economic and communications centre. Tana, similar to other Asian and African capitals, is rather noisy and crowded. Nevertheless, it is worth visiting because there are a number of specific attractions such as the Haute Ville district full of restaurants and nightclubs, or the Arab markets Analekeli and Zoma, famous for their streetmongers and in which many local specialities and folk art objects can be found. One of the main attractions of the city is the Annecy Lake, with a World War I memorial in the middle, which you can also admire from above on the hills. It is worth walking along the Avenue of Independence, where casual traders offer their goods for not only the passers-by, but even those who can travel by cars. At all times of the day there is a huge crowd flowing in the streets, as if no one ever stood still, but that everyone had somewhere to go. From the hills, there is not only a great view of the city, but also of rice fields, where the main ingredient of the local gastronomy is produced. The flooded lands reflect the image of the city and the slowly westbound sun. For those of you who do not feel a desire to familiarise yourselves with the island's flora and fauna in its national parks, it is essential to visit the capital zoo and botanical garden. During a comfortable walk, you can view the native flora and fauna species. In Madagascar, there are about 12,000 plant species. 85% of them are only found in this part of the world. This is also home of the Ravenala madagascariensis, which is the symbol of the country and can be seen in the country's coat of arms too. Its common name, traveller's palm, refers to the legend that the tree always serves fresh water for wanderers. More than 90% of the 600 species of reptiles and amphibians living here are indigenous as well. Regarding chameleons, Madagascar has the greatest richness of species besides West Africa. Here lives nearly half of its 150 species. The exotic appearance of the chameleons and their amazing ability to change colours can be impressive for those who otherwise do not like reptiles. But their colours are not primarily influenced by the colour of the environment, and it is also a misconception that they can be any colour. This capability is not only good for camouflage, but is used for mood expression and communication between individuals. Each race, sex and even specimen may have their own colour gamut. The giant tortoise is now the largest living tortoise species. They can weigh as much as 250 kilograms and can grow to be almost 2 meters. They are herbivores, mainly feed on grass and leaves. According to the observations, tortoises occupy and leave their sleeping place in a specific order, which refers to a social system and the existence of dominance relations. In the first 10 years of life, only a few survive, but the bigger specimens have no natural enemies, so they can live up to 200 years. A few small and large lakes have been formed in the huge park, including the one that can be seen in the images, which is really special with the sight of bunches of palm-like water plants. The huge leaves are not only beautiful, but could also serve as umbrellas during the rainy season. The huge tree on the waterfront is possessed by a snow-white flock of birds with innumerable members and looks almost snow-covered from the guano. By the way, Madagascar also has much to offer in case of birds. More than half of the 200 species of birds laying eggs here are native to the island. The bridge-looking structures over the lakes are not only spectacular, but also practical. Walking across them, we can have a closer look at the animals and their habitats created on these small islands. The scary-looking crocodile is now resting motionless, ignoring the curious people. If we encounter him in his real environment, in the island's rivers and lagoons, we certainly would not dare to approach him. All of the about 100 species of mammals living in Madagascar are practically unique. The third most primate species in the world can be found here, and as in many areas in wildlife, the island is also unique in that. Except the 2 species of mackies living on the neighbouring Comoro, these animals cannot be found anywhere else in the world. The species are known for their elongated snout, short ears and long tail. They live mainly in trees and active in daytime. Ringtail lemurs or katas are typical, and that's why they are known and loved by many people. They live in Madagascar's south, southwest and southeast areas, especially in gallery forests, dry deciduous forests and scrublands. Its bushy hair colour is grey, which is brown on the back and white on the front. His face is also white, but black around the eyes and nose. Most spectacular is the long tail, which is ringed and black and white. This inspired its name givers. The tail has an important role in communication. Running on the soil, they wave them high as banners to make other members know where they are. Visual, as well as odour and voice communication, plays an important role in the contacts between individuals. Not less than 28 different tones can be distinguished. Katas are active during daytime, feed on various parts of plants, leaves, flowers, fruits, barks and plant sap, but occasionally also eat arthropods. Females have usually one offspring, but it is not too uncommon to have twins. The baby monkeys initially hang on the mother's belly, but then ride on their backs. As there are a number of predators lurking in nature, they usually live for 15 years, but in captivity they can live for twice as many years. Just like in other zoos and botanical gardens, we can have the opportunity to admire the wonders of wildlife and natural beauty. Already, there is a new, beautiful local site, a true rarity. This park is about 50 kilometres from Tana where, with international assistance, a habitat has been created particularly for the Makis, also known as prosimians, who live only in Madagascar and Comoro. It was intended to create an environment that is very similar to these creatures' natural habitats. That's why this location has been selected. The animals can possess vast territories. Here is freshwater, airy, shady groves, banana trees, palms and lush bamboo forests. This is the Lemurs Park, where all species can live and reproduce undisturbed. Since the majority of animals are not fenced in, the park can only be viewed with a guide, and there are also some important safety rules. For example, visitors are allowed to approach Makis only up to 2 meters. The Aboriginal name of lemurs means ghost, noting that during walking in the forests of Madagascar, we can often glimpse a ghastly face among the branches staring at us. Their scientific name also means dead souls, which was given after the Romans' lemurs, the wandering souls and after-death spooks, referring to these animals' night lives and hellish yells. The name originates from a misconception. Having heard these monkeys' elongated, mysterious voice, European explorers thought spirits dwell in the forests. One of the park's residents is Vero Sefaka, from one of the lemur families, Idriadae. It can be seen in most dry tropical and subtropical evergreen and deciduous forests in western Madagascar. The first part of its name commemorates the excellent French scientist, while Sefaka is an onomatopoeic word which mimics the alarm calls of the animals. The fur of the Sefakas is basically white with coloration varying in degrees and locations by the 4 subspecies. The back, abdomen, extremities can be dotted with red and dark spots. The face and the top of the head, however, are always brown and black. The hind legs are strong and longer than the front ones to facilitate leaping between the branches. These Makis are arboreal, jump from tree to tree. They are able to make leaps of up to 9 to 10 meters. They are diurnal, active in daytime, but they spend the hottest hours resting. Sefakas mainly feed on leaves, but during the rainy season they eat a variety of flowers and fruits. They control their water balance by eating juicy plants and licking the morning dew, but never descend to the ground to drink water. They strictly protect their food sources. This is when you can hear their typical alarm call. The females deliver only one baby, which hangs from the mother's belly in the first 6 to 8 weeks, then travels on the back till 7 months of age. This can live up to 18 years in zoos. This is another special mammal, the black and white ruffed lemur, which lives in the island's tropical rainforests. It is the largest living species within the Lemuridae family, which spends the day relaxing and sunbathing. If you walk in the park not only watching the leaves but the soil, you will see small and more active animals such as this peacefully sunbathing iguana baby. The radiated tortoise is also native to Madagascar. In particular, it lives in dry, thorny underbrush on the island's southern and southwestern part. Their main features, from which they got their names, are the yellowish-brown stripes running in from the outside on a dark-coloured armour. From this the shell would seem to be divided radially. They are often kept in captivity because the Aborigines believe that these creatures protect the animals from disease. This is a wonderful world. Firstly, an undisturbed habitat for endangered species, being on the edge of extinction in many cases due to humans. On the other hand, it is a unique place for visitors who cannot admire most of the plant and animal species living here anywhere else in the world. The Royal Hill of Ambohimanga, a site of cultural and historical significance located approximately half an hour's drive from the capital city, was declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 2001. The Royal Hill consists of a historical royal city, the burial sites of the royalty of Imarina, and a sacred tomb complex. In 1710, the ruler divided his kingdom, leaving Ambohimanga, the Blue Hill, to one of his 4 sons, who in return made it a capital. The future king's new capital was in Antananarivo, but still often stayed here. Ambohimanga was henceforth considered one of the sacred royal hills of Imarina, the Marina Kingdom, and was known as a forbidden city for more than 100 years, until 1897, when the French colonial administration transferred all the relics of the royal family to break the spirit of resistance and ethnic identity. The fortification wall was constructed in 1847 with an ancient mortaring technique using lemons and egg whites. Of the 7 gates of the wall, the largest and most important have survived in the best condition, which are known as the Standing Stone. Every morning and evening, 20 soldiers rolled an enormous, approximately 12-ton stone disc, thereby closing or opening the gateway to protect the residents from raiders. Inside the walls, the 2 ornate palace buildings, the 2 pavilions of Queen Ranavalona II, made of rosewood, were built in 1871. The larger building was for receiving visitors, with a large salon on the ground floor and the bedroom of the Queen on the first floor. The buildings are very richly decorated, the details are meticulously developed. In the salon, the original European furniture has been preserved, and the many gifts given by foreign dignitaries to the Queen are on display here. Not only the room furnishings, but the beautiful oriental upholstery on the walls is well worth mentioning. The second, smaller pavilion is known as the Trana Fitaratra, House of Glass, and was where the Queen would gather her ministers for council. In the lower level of the building there is a small lounge, also furnished with contemporary furniture. On the first floor, a beautiful panorama bursts upon our view. The stained glass windows of the council chamber, of which the house was named, were imported to the island by an Englishman. The Queen's bedroom is also preserved in its original condition. It is still considered a sacred place, and many visitors come here on pilgrimage to pray to her spirit. Two large basins have been carved from the stone foundation of the compound. One was a bath and the other was a swimming pool. Water was taken from the lake by the village and was replaced weekly. The simple wooden building next to the pavilions is built of rosewood in traditional style and serves as home and headquarters for King Adrianampoina Marina, nearly a century ago. The hut with peaked triangular roof and dirt floor also has the original equipment. In addition to contemporary everyday objects, some relics of the great king can be found here, including weapons, drums and talismans. This is also a shrine with exceptional holiness where many pilgrims visit to connect with the king and his predecessors' souls. Royal edicts and public judgments were handed down in the small courtyard at the base of the hill. The esplanade above it was the location of larger conventions and royal festivities. The Royal Hill of Ambohimanga is the most important symbol of cultural identity for the people of Madagascar, and remains a place of worship to which a lot of pilgrims come. The site is associated with strong feelings of national identity and has maintained its spiritual and sacred character both in ritual practice and the popular imagination for the past few hundred years. Maroancetra Port is located on the northernmost part of the Antogil Bay, situated at the mouth of the river Antanambalana. Approximately a 2-hour trip from here, natural treasures of a stunning beauty are hidden, which were available in the past for no one else but the pirates. The northeastern part of Madagascar, on the Masoala Peninsula, the island's largest nature conservation area of 410,000 hectares, which was formed in 1997 and together with 5 other national parks, collectively called Atsinanana Rainforests, became a World Heritage Site in 2007. The peninsula is the country's wettest area. The annual rainfall exceeds 5,000 millimeters. It is best to visit here between September and December when it usually rains at night, is warm during the day and the sun is shining. However, it is advisable to avoid the cyclone season, which lasts from January to March. This place gives home to the largest lowland rainforest in Madagascar. In some places it forms a coherent blanket to the azure waters of Antogil Bay, where from June to September humpback whales dwell. The bay's warm, sheltered waters are ideal for those wonderful marine mammals to mate and reproduce. Some estimates suggest that 50% of the island's marine life lives here. The marine reserves, as part of Masoala National Park, the western Tampolo, the southern Ambo-Deletri and the eastern Ifaho, are Madagascar's most interesting marine zones and are ideal for kayaking and scuba diving. The marine enthusiasts will not be disappointed. Besides whales and corals, sea cucumbers, sea turtles, dolphins, and nearly 100 species of fish are waiting for them. Untouched beaches, rugged with the black rocks and the golden sand, and the ocean's beautiful, warm waves are worth mentioning. Without exaggeration, it gives the visitor the feeling of a tropical Garden of Eden. This good-looking humpbacked ungulate is zebu, a typical beast of burden here. Its milk and meat is important food source for residents. Its skin and horn are good for making everyday objects. On the Earth, along the equator, rainforests evolved 60 million years ago, but unfortunately their territory is getting smaller and smaller. Due to the Ice Age, climate change and the destructive activities of man, only about 4 to 8 million square kilometres of rainforest are left today. 85% of the island's natural forest cover has now been lost, mainly as a result of logging and burning methods of agriculture. Eastern Madagascar is covered by one of 3 main types of rainforests, the evergreen tropical rainforest. Here there are practically no seasons, the temperature is constantly between 25 and 27 Celsius, and due to the enormous rainfall, the humidity here is very high. For this reason, the plants are evergreen, although there is abscission. Flowering and fruit maturity are also continuous here. We can distinguish between primary or completely intact and secondary rainforests which grow on formerly cleared areas. A rainforest is typically divided into layers based on the height of the forest plants, between which there are no clear dividing lines. They are often confluent. The upper emergent level is composed of giant trees, so-called emergents, which can reach up to 50 to 60 meters in height. Their huge trunks can be up to 5 meters in diameter near the ground. In the middle level, the canopies of the normal-sized trees form an almost completely closed cover in a 14 to 45 meter height from the ground. This level is home to the 2/3 of the tropical rainforest plants and animals. In both canopy levels, epiphytic plants can be found, which are rooted in the ground, but climb to the air clinging on trunks of other trees. Parasitic plants, however, occupy tree trunks, branches or canopies and use nutrients and water found here. Very little light reaches the bottom layer of the forest, so under the canopies the forest floor is in permanent semi-darkness. Here, only a few plants can live, such as ferns and fungi, which are adapted to low light, and fauna is represented by invertebrates, mainly insects. In the rainforest, moss can be found at all levels. They have an important role in water storage and continuous moisture supply. The scientists believe that about 70% of the population of the Earth's fauna and flora live in tropical rainforests. The reason for the large number of species is still not known for sure. One assumption is that at the place of former rainforests, which disappeared during the Ice Age, some creatures remained and weren't wiped out completely. So, in isolated areas, new plant and animal species could evolve. Then, after global warming, when the forests extended again, they adopted the renewed organisms. The rainforest species usually occur only in a small area and are not found anywhere else in the world. Their habitat is sometimes only a few hundred meters square, which means that the destruction of a very small area of rainforest can delete 1 or 2 species forever from the Earth. It has only recently been recognized that the Earth's green lungs has an important role in our planet's climate, so we need to protect this common heritage of mankind. This gave the idea to create Masoala National Park in Madagascar, which protects 2,300 square kilometers of rainforest and 100 square kilometers of marine parks. It has an exceptionally diverse ecosystem and provides an excellent opportunity to experience the unique flora and fauna of the island. This is one of the richest wildlife areas on Earth, and within the park a great variety of ecosystems can be observed, from coral reefs to middle-height rainforests. The park also protects coastal forests, flooded forests, marshes and mangrove woods. The total flora is represented by around 2,500 species. In the conservation area, many mammals live, including 10 species of lemurs, but the patient viewer can see beautiful birds, butterflies, chameleons, geckos and frogs too. However, we cannot start our expedition without a guide who is familiar with the winding paths of the rainforest. The park is only open to visitors, accompanied by a professional licensed guide who shows us those interesting things which would remain undetected for the inexperienced viewer and let us in on the production of the jungle glass.
The green one, and we make that like spoon, like this. You can eat, we can drink the water with that.
Although at first sight the rainforest can seem to be mysterious and frightening, there is no real threat lurking. In Madagascar there are no big beasts and predators which could do serious damage to us. Only the otherwise harmless scorpion stings may cause some inconvenience. However, we usually only encounter these animals at night, and especially after rain, as they like dark and damp places. So if we want to see really fascinating wildlife, and not get a so everyday taste of Madagascar, be sure to visit here. This peninsula is one of the last places on Earth where nature still prevails in its full glory. Aside from daytime and nighttime forest trips extended with beast or bird watching, it is possible to enjoy sea kayaking, scuba diving, whale watching or fishing in the park. At the west coast of Madagascar, we arrive at the city of Morondava, where this ocean is almost within reach and bungalows with fabulous gardens are waiting for us to rest in them. You also have the opportunity to taste the sometimes strange but very tasty local dishes. The country's most important ingredient is rice, the culture of its cultivation brought in with the Asian tribes. There are many ways and forms to prepare it. Here it is served with diverse vegetable garnishes. The most typical dish here is ramzavata, which contains specially spiced beefsteaks and vegetables largely unknown to us. Ravitoto is made of pork. A common side dish is acrids, a delicately flavoured vegetable garnish with slightly spicy sauce. Of course, the menu contains some dishes made from the fruits of the sea, which are very well prepared by the local chefs. When the sun is setting, the heat abates. This is a great opportunity to admire the sunset while sipping refreshing drinks. It is a truly amazing sight as the huge disk of the sun is slowly changing to red and lazily submerging into the Indian Ocean. Madagascar is one of the world's poorest and least developed countries. Today, about 18 million people live here. Archaeologists estimate that human settlement of the island happened between 200 and 500 AD. However, the written history of Madagascar begins in the 8th century. But one thing is certain, there came Malay and Bantu groups, European pirates, Arab travellers, so it is no wonder that for today the country has nearly 20 separate tribal groups. The indigenous population willingly practiced tribal traditions and practiced the Catholic faith. The language, Malagasy, is undoubtedly the result of immigration of the Malay tribes. 80% of the country's population does farming, but fishing and deforestation are significant too. The locals live in very miserable conditions. Despite this, they are smiling and friendly to arriving tourists. They are very nice and helpful. Approximately an hour drive from Morondava, at the midwest coast of the island, that countryside is situated which pampers the visitors in an almost unique way. You can admire these fabulous giants which seem like they were turned to stone, the majestic Adosonia, or more commonly called baobab trees. The scenery is impressive. As far as the eye can see, strange-looking giants are lined up among the rice fields in natural confusion, captivating the viewer. This is Baobab Avenue, Madagascar's most famous natural attraction. According to the legend, this beautiful tree had complained so much to the Great Spirit of the Plains that he would have liked to have been the best and brightest tree in the world, that the Great Spirit grew tired of it, rooted it out and put it back upside down. The large tree got so afraid that since then it grows leaves only once a year in the rainy season, and during the dry months it looks as though its roots intend to reach the sky. Despite its unusual appearance, one of the world's largest trees, with its 45 meters height, is known as the symbol for the tree of life. Almost all the parts can be used. The leaves are good for making a soup, used to reduce inflammation. The almond-tasting seeds are rich in protein and oil and often eaten fried. The dried pulp is covered with sugary coating and sold in packages as candies. The fruit is good for a lot of illness and even delicious uncooked. The fruit peel is a good fuel, but finely grounded, it is used as pipe tobacco and soap is made of the ash. Boughs of young shoots and roots are consumed as vegetables. The bark contains tannin with a fever-combating effect and is made up of a material which can store up to 120,000 litres of water at once. Durable fibre is derived from it for making ropes, baskets and textiles. A baobab can also endure considerable injuries and live up to 2,000 years. Leaving behind the landscape dominated by the giant baobab trees, a special new world unfolds before our eyes. Here lies the 10,000-hectare Kirindi forest, where the seasons are divided really well. The short, hot, rainy season between December and February is followed by 9 almost rain-free months. Most of the forest trees react to the prolonged dry season by shedding their leaves, thus storing the water. In the rainy season, everything transforms. The dry branches become an impenetrable emerald wall. The diverse beauty of the forest dazzles all visitors, but besides the impressive sight of the plants, the rich fauna is also unique. 8 maki species are resident here. Some are active at night, others can be seen only during the day, but there are a few that show themselves in all times of day. Now it is about noon, and because of the swelter, most of the lemurs spend the time having a rest, but some of them are curiously watching the visitors. Only sifakas are vivid. Some members of the team seem to perform acts intentionally. Others have dinner undisturbed. Apparently they are not afraid of man, but sometimes they raise an inquiring look at us. The forest means home to more than 60 species of birds as well. Many of them spend the driest months in other parts of Madagascar, Africa or Europe. We should mention the fact that recently the world's smallest living primates, pygmy mouse lemurs, have been discovered here too. We can only hope that the decrease of natural habitats will not lead to the disappearance of this uniquely rich Makai population. Finishing roaming the forest, we detour to see the Lover's Tree. After the usually solitary trees with large and small distances between them, it is really a strange sight to see these infinitely embracing, intertwining giants. Visitors carved on these tree trunks as a remembrance with the hope of eternal togetherness. On the way home, we cannot surmount the temptation to pause between the baobab trees again. Toward the end of the dry season, due to the lack of rain for several months, in some places the landscape is almost dead. We can see sand and dry branches everywhere. Leaving behind the bare land and the grazing goats, slender palm trees, lush paddy fields and prosperous water lilies pamper the eyes. In the soft lights of the afternoon sun, the giants seem to be even more beautiful. Even though we may think we are walking on a dead, alien landscape, Baobab Avenue and the surrounding area is very busy. We can see grazing zebus, hard-working aboriginals and families travelling home by zebu coaches. Both people and animals seem to have got used to tourist delighting in the landscape. We leave Madagascar with these wonderful pictures. We hope to provide an insight into the world of this enchantingly beautiful and uncertain parts uniquely unspoilt island. This place is not only very interesting but also really valuable. It has such unique attributes and wildlife that it deserves to be one of the world's 5 most valuable habitats, a biodiversity hotspot. In recent decades, the island has become one of the most popular destinations, a paradise for scientists and natural beauty-loving eco-tourists. The conservation efforts over the last few years are really encouraging, so we can hope that these special creatures will not become extinct, and we will be able to admire Madagascar's eye-catching beauty for a long time. These gigantic trees are also spectacular in the sunshine, but if you wait for the sunset, believe me, it is an unforgettable experience.